In Underhanded, the new novel by Jim Billman, Sonny Kristoff shares his adventures during the changing times after World War II with a refreshing inside-out look at history. Written from the perspective of men's fast-pitch softball, this was the time when baseball's little brother became America's most popular team sport. But unlike baseball, its imperfect dimensions brought about its demise. Order Underhanded on Amazon. Underhanded by longtime Southeast Iowa native Jim Billman. Available now.
Good morning. I'm Brent Adams here with your Rural Strong Morning Ag Report for this Monday, February 26th. Leading off the headlines this morning, the USDA reports a sharp decline in cattle feedlot placements compared to a year ago. More on that from USDA Radio's Gary Crawford.
A pretty large decline in the number of cattle going into feedlots last month. USDA reports placements were almost 1.8 million head. That's down 7% from January a year ago. Why the big decline? USDA livestock analyst Shale Shagam gave us a couple of reasons.
The number of cattle outside feedlots is small relative to a year ago. You're down about 4%. So to some extent, it does reflect pulling a number of cattle from a smaller pool. The other thing you have to remember is that, we did have some weather events during January, which probably had some impact on the pace of placements of cattle into the feedlots.
However, feedlot inventories on February 1st were still slightly above February 1st of 2023 at 11.8 million head, just 40,000 head or so more than a year ago. Gary Crawford reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
USDA is also out with its new forecast for food prices. Here again is Gary Crawford.
Food at home, otherwise known as grocery store food prices, will likely go up this year, but by far less than in recent years. Agriculture Department economist Megan Schweitzer is forecasting food prices to rise by 1.6% in 2024.
That's quite a bit lower than the 5% increase we saw in 2023.
And hugely lower than 2022, when shoppers saw grocery store prices increase almost 11.5%. So 1.6% would be lower even than the average yearly run-up in food prices, which tends to run about 2.7%. And Megan told us also,
if we were to see 1.6% growth, that would be the lowest we've seen since 2019, when food at home prices rose by 0.9%.
And Megan says some food categories actually will cost less than they did last year, including pork products, fish and seafood, cereal and bakery products, and eggs. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
Also this morning, the American Farm Bureau Federation and the National Farmers Union sent a letter to the USDA asking for stability in Class 1 milk prices. The letter asks U.S. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack to issue an interim final decision to return the Class 1 mover formula to the higher of the Class 3 or Class 4 calculations as it was before the 2018 Farm Bill. The letter states, quote, dairy farmers remain stuck with the current pricing regulations until USDA publishes a final rule. Current market dynamics underscore the need for an expedited return to the higher of Class 1 mover, end quote. The current Class 1 mover was a well-intentioned but misguided policy that has reduced dairy farmer income. Emergency implementation of the higher Class 1 mover formula will staunch persistent losses associated with a policy that has left dairy farmers struggling to make ends meet. The current formula was based on a quick decision and not demonstrated need. Well, millions of rural Americans will lose a key broadband subsidy as soon as April unless Congress, already mired in spending fights, approves funding for the Affordable Connectivity Program. The $14 billion program, relied on heavily by those in rural areas, offers qualifying families $30 discounts on internet bills, often the difference between having internet or not. Sarah Nichols with the North Carolina Development Group Land of Sky Regional Council and California Representative Doris Matsui at a House hearing last year.
Ms. Nichols, can you discuss the relationship between connectivity on farms and the ability of rural areas to attract younger talent?
Yes, advances in technology will help appeal to a younger audience. With the aging ag community, this is a critical component.
The FCC stopped taking new requests for funding on February 7th, and Nichols warns that's just the beginning.
For many, this will mean that connectivity ends. So we would hope that providers would help us step up to the plate and offer affordability options, but our optimism is low given the cost of deployment.
Some 23 million families now benefit from the Affordable Connectivity Program. The Associated Press reported that a bipartisan group of lawmakers recently proposed a bill to sustain the program through the end of this year with an additional $7 billion in funding. But no votes have been scheduled, and without new money, millions of rural Americans could find themselves again on the wrong side of the digital divide. And finally, this morning, spring planting is rapidly approaching, and that means getting planters ready for the fields. Brad Neinstedt, Kinsey Manufacturing Lead Product Specialist, shares some of the important maintenance checks to ensure that planters are ready to roll.
The biggest thing with maintenance is you're really going to start at the hitch pin and work your way all the way back. So is the planter running level? All the connections look good shape, safety lights, harnesses, all those things at the front. So then we get to really the meat and potatoes of the planter itself, row unit maintenance. And that, again, starts where it attaches to the toolbar. Parallel arm bushings, making sure that hardware's tight. What kind of wear do we see in there? The row unit and drive line, is that in good condition? And then, of course, the ground engaging components. Same story front to back and working through no-till coulter, residue wheels, bearings, diameter of that no-till coulter if you're running one, and then double disc openers, ensuring they're in good condition, they're adjusted correctly above our 14.5-inch minimum diameter. And then we hit that last step at the end where we get into our closing system, whether it be adjusting alignment, checking bearings, checking wear side to side on those pivot arms.
Neinstedt says seed meters and planter software also need to be considered.
Of course, there's a multitude of meters in the industry, but the same rules apply. It's taking them apart, checking our wear components to, again, just ensure maximum performance ahead of time. Not a bad idea is it takes some meters off, have them tested, again, to check performance, and kind of know before you go. And, of course, the last one that really kind of gets forgotten about because it's kind of hard to see, but obviously the software update piece. And they're good. They have to be done. They can fix problems. And really, it's not only software updates, it's the cleanup part and the data management thing. Again, that takes some time. You got to set a priority to it and clean up old data from the year before, add new data in, new fields, new hybrids, all those type of things.
He notes that Kinsey will introduce a new planter for 2025.
It's kind of another family member in our 5000 series with the model 5670. So this is a lift and pivot style frame. Of course, split row configurations. We're offering it in 12 and 16 row configurations. Of course, can plant both 15 and 30-inch rows. So multi-crop use. We added a lot of new features to it with our 5000 series row units that we released last year. A lot of good standard features with spoke gauge wheels, standard gauge wheel mud scrapers, and of course the tried and true introduction of shimless and greaseless gauge wheel arms. So reducing those grease points on a per row unit basis, and a lot more options too. We now support fertilizer with split row and bulk seed all on the same planter. So kind of the next generation in split row planting and the next member of our 5000 series model lineup.
For more information, contact your Kinsey dealer or visit kinsey.com. We can keep up with the latest in the world of agriculture by subscribing to the Tractors and Troubadours podcast from Rural Strong Media. Each week, we bring you agriculture industry newsmakers, hot button industry issues, educational features, and the best in traditional country music. The Tractors and Troubadours podcast can be found at ruralstrongmedia.com or wherever you get your podcasts. We also invite you to join us daily on Rural Strong Radio, our 24/7 streaming radio station found at ruralstrongmedia.com or the Live 365 streaming radio app for your mobile device. Each day, we bring you our award-winning agriculture programming, as well as the best in traditional country music, mixed in with a little bluegrass, western swing, southern rock, and inspirational music. Again, the place to find Rural Strong Radio is ruralstrongmedia.com or the Live 365 streaming radio app. We're portable, so take us with you everywhere you go while you're working on the farm or ranch. Let's get through the workday together. Well, I'll be back again tomorrow with another Rural Strong Morning Ag Report here on Steve Shetler Media. Make it a great day, everybody.